Welcome to Stuck in the Middle, TTT, Tragedy to Triumph Transformation. This is all about taking the information that we have and applying it to you in your life so that you can be buffaloes, not cowards. We want to keep it raw, real, and uncut. This is for men to improve their relationships and increasing their spiritual values. I'm Ryan Smith, and I'm the host, and I'm with Bunker Weimer.
Yeah, and I think about this agreeableness, what's really coming up, because that's a hard one to say. Am I too agreeable? I am very agreeable. I think that the thing of being something that we'll probably talk about at some other point, maybe go in more, what is the alpha male? And I got into that. And to me, it's, you don't have to win every argument or something like that. And like always, it's your way or the highway. That can be even a beta male. That can be.
And it's fueled by insecurity.
Yeah, it's fueled by insecurity. But the thing about the agreeable that I think helps, it's really important to understand, Bunker, is that it's informed when you agree and disagree. It's informed by your vision. Where are you going with your life? And if you know where you're going to, where you're headed, you know what to say yes to and what to say no to. And there's no instability or shakiness with that. If they're telling you to do something out of character that's not going to help you with your ultimate vision, the masculine energy has no patience, has no room for that, and is going to say no. Now, how they go about it is maybe another approach to that, but in their heart of hearts, if Bunker, you're telling me to do something that's outside of my vision, like it's not going to shake me, and that if I'm in my masculine energy, right? And so I think it's just really, and so I think the more clear, going back to what you're saying, is vision. You got to know where you're going. You got to be ambitious, and that ambitiousness, being ambitious, is because you're so clear on your vision for your life. And that's where the agreeableness is. And so, if they're talking about something that you're already in line with, you can agree all day with it. But the moment it's saying, hey, let's pillage the weaklings, you're just like, no, and I'll stand in between me and my family, and you're not taking my family, and I'm going to fight for that.
Absolutely. And one of the thoughts, this is kind of changing gears a little bit, but I think being part of being a man, another thought I had was knowing the extent of your limits. Well, knowing the extent of your capacity, but putting limits on it.
Say that one more time.
Knowing the extent of your capacity and putting limits on it. What I mean by that, or maybe knowing the extent of your capacity, but choosing where you want to be within your capacity. I tell that to a lot of guys that are dating, because I'd say about 20% of men probably get 80% of the women. That's pretty flip-flopped or pretty unbalanced. And a lot of these guys who are the 20%, the other 80% of men want to be them. They think they're the coolest guys because you're getting all the girls, but it's a quantity thing. And those 20% of men are actually kind of miserable a lot of the time because they're looking for connection. They're looking for a partner, someone to have a deep connection with, and they're not finding it. It's just a large quantity of girls that they're seeing. And I think it's important to remember that you just need one. You just need one good fit. And that's kind of a voice of hope to the other guys as well. But I guess what I'm getting at is just because you can doesn't mean that you always should. And what I mean further with that is if you're a guy and you have the opportunity to go out with 15 girls, what sparked this thought in my mind was you saying like prey on the weaklings, because there's a lot of guys that do that. They find the easy targets. I see it at college all the time. A guy who's 22, 23, did some summer sales, has some money, has a nice car, cute 18-year-old girls come in, know nothing about life. And it's like they can line them up and knock them down as much as they want. There's no fulfillment on either end. And then those young girls just get hurt because in their mind, it's so exciting. The older guy takes interest in me. He's got a car. He's got some money. He's got life kind of figured out. And then they just drop them. But I do feel like being a true man in your masculine frame is understanding that you have the capacity to do that and choosing not to do that because you're doing better things with your abilities to do. Does that make sense?
I think you said a lot in there.
I'm sure I did.
So by saying yes, I feel like I don't satisfy that. But I think what I do agree with, because I think there's something I wanted to say that didn't sit with me completely. But but I want to start with what I agree with, and that is just being the real man, even though you have the power to have sex with a woman, or to have a woman's heart. That's a precious thing in art. Even though maybe a woman might give you her heart and her trust, the real man is going to take care of that. And if he's not interested in her in the long term, and you knowing that she's head over heels for you and ready to marry you, but you're just calling, I'm going to use a bad word, a booty call, that's not a real man, right? That's going to be, that's using that. That's an extreme using it, not with righteousness. It's not the right relationship.
Right.
So I think you said that, and there may have been, I think, something else you unpacked, but the thing that I have a thought with, you said like 20% of the men get 80% of the women, and you kind of said that in a negative term, with what was just said, which is negative. But I maybe is going to propose that could be a positive thing if that's true, which I do think is there are some men that are more attractive than other men, and it's because these 20% of men, if that is the number, they figured it out to live, or at least portray
masculine
that maybe that, remember we talked about that iceberg, maybe what is portrayed, the visual or the external world may look like a man. If they have a truck, they have some money, they did their summer sales, and they maybe are 5 years older than the other college girls, so they may look more masculine. But then kind of what you're talking about is that spiritual world is, are they really masculine and have their ducks in a row underneath? But so that was kind of negative, but I think on a positive term, like that might be a great thing. And that's maybe what we're trying to get. If you are in the 80%, let's get you to that 20%.
Absolutely.
You can use your power correctly, because I think it's great. You want to be that man that when you find the woman that you want to be with forever, that you can play your cards right, and that she wants to give you her heart and trust you. And that's a great thing. And so be that guy that all the girls are swooning over. Be that guy who gets 80% of the girls. Like that's what this is about, is be that magnet that is that standard of righteousness and masculinity.
Right. Absolutely. And that is part of like my message that I try to instill in people is wherever you find yourself between the 20 and 80%, we can help you get to the next spot. Like there's hope for you. There's a ton of great resources. There's simple things that you can implement or change that will make all the difference. Right. So I don't necessarily mean it in such a negative way, but it is interesting to hear girls come to me and say, man, there's no good guys to date. And I'm like, when I know a bunch of guys are saying there's no good girls to date, and they're surrounded by each other, but they're not what each other wants. And so it's like, maybe
they're not giving out the right masculine and feminine energies.
Right. Exactly.
And just on a side note, I'm open for business and I want to do one-on-one coaching. Is that something that you're open for?
Yeah, absolutely.
How can people find you?
Now, I have an Instagram, Bunker Weimer. I think it's Bunker Weimer, the dating coach. I don't get on very often. I need to be on more. But there's another Instagram out there that's an old one of mine. It got hacked, so don't follow that one. Follow the one that looks more like me right now, not the young me. And then you can DM me on that. I'll get those messages. And I work with a lot of men one-on-one, probably more. I feel like I talk to women just to give them insight to the male psyche. So if that's something that you're interested for, because I know that can be very frustrating, if it's hard to find men who will sit down and figure out what they're feeling and thinking and try to articulate that to you. And women need that. They need to know, what is the man thinking? Where is he coming from? I need a little bit of a clarification. Sometimes does he even like me? Why doesn't he respond to me? What does this mean? And sometimes I can be a little brutally honest. Sometimes it doesn't always feel good to hear what I have to say, what the guys are thinking. But yeah, those are the things that I do.
They're not into you, but yes,
it's a hard one to hear, but sometimes it's the most important.
Yeah, there is a thing that, and that's working with me, that one of the big things I teach is getting your manslater or your woman slater. You're translating man language or translating woman language. That's a foreign language.
Yeah.
The thing is I don't even speak fluent manese, right? And so how hard it is for my wife to know what I'm saying and translating all of that. So, and vice versa, my wife doesn't always know what she's saying. but I think I've disarmed many a argument because I understood what she was saying better than she knew what she was saying.
Yeah.
And
And
that's the power of coaching. That's the power that you will learn to anticipate and understand what your partner, your spouse, your girlfriend is saying, even maybe before, and you can anticipate that. And I want to give you those keys so that you really can kind of be dictating the relationship and creating it in a positive way, that you have the power. And the bad thing is I could be transforming you into being a better manipulator and because I'm going to give you more power. But a lot of the thing that I also teach is integrity. And
Yeah.
ultimately, if I know that you're a person that is trying to use and abuse people, I just won't work with you. So
Yeah.
that is I definitely, people that I can sense or have that right heart and have that right relationship, then I give you guys the keys to the kingdom and you can figure that out. And to answer this question, for me, for my wife, when she's been in her masculine energy, it drives me crazy. And our relationship butts heads very quick. And the extreme ownership, and maybe the sad part is I may have created, and I may have been more in my feminine energy that created more of her masculine energy. And then later it comes back around, and then she's kind of, telling me what to do and being bossy and being, or trying to protect herself. And maybe because I didn't maybe create that security. And I know also it's not only me. Hopefully sometimes it's just like life. When our life is more unstable, my wife, she will swing to a more masculine energy, and I can feel it. She knows I call her out on it, and maybe that's where I need to use my approach better, and how I say it needs to invite her feminine energy. And maybe I just kind of say it too direct and right on the nose, and therefore it maybe creates more of the monster that maybe I'm seeing. But I want to say this. So in Eastern, we got to define this before we're talking about masculine and feminine energy. We need to define this before we close out today. In the Eastern tradition, and I think I love symbols, and one of my favorite symbols is the yin yang symbol. It has black and white, but it also has parts of white within the black and vice versa. And so the yang energy represents, in the Eastern tradition, represents positive, masculine, active, logical, light, day, hot, hard, fast, and sun. Those are masculine energies. You see that, and the man is for the day, the woman is woman of the night, and so the yin is feminine energy, and that's the black, where that's negative, and it's not meaning negative in terms of less than, it's in terms of just opposite than positive, like magnet. But maybe I do think that there's probably some corrupt parts that maybe say, and I definitely do think, this is Ryan, but I think I'm on good ground saying this. In the Eastern tradition, men are like, their status is higher than women.
Yeah,
have more Confucius culture within them, and anyway, just when Asian women come to the West, they're like, whoa, their status increases a lot. Here in the West, we treat
equal.
I don't know if we treat it equal, but better than
probably more than most places in the world.
Probably, I think so. Which there's definitely an argument for the other side. So
yeah.
I don't want to be inclusive, super inclusive, but there is a just status. I don't know. I don't want to go too much into that. So, but the yin energy in Eastern tradition is negative, feminine, passive, intuitive, dark, night, cold, soft, slow, moon. And those are opposites than, the yang of sun, fast, hard, hot, day, light, logical, active, positive. So that I thought was helpful, and that's this is religion right here that we're talking about. And just kind of talking in excess, the masculine yang is going to be forcing, rigid, dominant, and producing anxiety. And then in the yin, in an excessive way, is going to be opposed to forcing, it's going to be needy, and opposed to rigid, it's going to be confused. Yin, too much of that is going to be opposed to dominant or domineering, it's going to be martyrdom, playing the victim, right?
Right.
And then opposed to anxiety, it's going to produce depression. And they said here it's soft, synchronicity, quality. These are the feminine energies: soft, synchronicity, quality, ambivalence, creativity, right brain, intuitive, nurturing, yielding, compassionate, introspective, internal energy, passive, and patient, opposed to the masculine energy of active, external energy, exertion, valor, domination, initiating, left brain, logical, conscientious, certain, quality. Quantity for the masculine, and then quantity for the feminine. And then opposed to synchronicity for the feminine, masculine energy is going to be cause and effect and hard. And then just to keep on this list, and so that was the Eastern like yin and yang, but just the list that I have, the feminine energy, you talked about water. I think that's a good symbol. And the thing is these are both powerful energies. They're both needed. And the thing is to be both. And I want to just maybe end on some thoughts with that. But I just want to define this feminine energy. It's going to be open, artistic, spiritual, flow, dynamic, calming down, acceptance, empathy. These I feel like there's a lot of relational components to the feminine energy. Judgment outside the realm of rationality, using emotion, prioritizing feelings. I feel like a woman in her feminine energy isn't going to, when she gets upset, she's going to be able to prioritize her feelings and be in control of her emotions, which is a thing that a man is important for a man to do. It's not. So this isn't unisexual, or we both as men need feminine energy as well. I'm going to talk about that. And then the last two is communication, strength, and it's going to be in the arts. The feminine energy is more in the arts. And then here's the masculine energy, which is going to be more in the sciences, because they're going to have more of a structure and rules, right? Where feminine energy is more intuitive and flowy, but masculine energy is going to have a science that's predictable, structure, rules. It's going to have dominant. It's going to be more of a solid rather than a water or a liquid. It's going to be action, doing, physical, predictable. And then the three are the will, clarity, and focus. And this is along this, so bear with me. Logical, embrace change head on. And so it's going to be more in the warrior archetype, where the feminine energy will be in the lover archetype. And both of these are important for every man. A real man is going to embrace their feminine energy and use that energy when it's appropriate and when it's right. And we talked about that balance. It's being in the middle. And ultimate balance means being perfect in whatever the moment presents itself, being perfect in that moment. Sometimes it's masculine energy, sometimes it's feminine energy. But I think a better way to even describe that are in in the archetypes. And there's 4 archetypes, and Tony Robbins talks about these, and I love these. There's the king and queen archetype, there's the warrior archetype, there's the magician archetype, and then there's the lover archetype. And this is my little rant here so just stay with me for 1 minute here. This is getting long, and we're going to wrap this up really quick. But I love this. And so the warrior archetype is going to be action and strength. And it's going to be independent and using justice. And then on the other yang, or no, the yin, that's feminine energy. The lover energy is going to be connection, unconditional acceptance, using mercy, and it's going to be dependent. And so if we take these two kind of extremes or archetypes, and then in the middle of these, I think are going to also include the magician archetype. And that kind of goes in between both of these. And it's going to cut and be in balance in using wisdom and intuition. And so when I think you've mastered these, I think that's when you can use the warrior and the lover and the magician, and you have kind of know when to play each one of those cards. If life is like a card game, and you have these cards, and when you know when to play which energy, which card, then you become the king and the queen. And that's because you have stability and vision, and you have mastery, and that's when you have learned interdependence. When you're appropriately independent, but you can also use the connection and dependence and interconnect with people. And that's, I think, being the king archetype. And that's what what we've kind of talked about, these principles kind of from a 3,000-foot view. And that's why I don't suspect you like listening to this and be like, oh, I got it all figured out. And that's why we want to work with you one-on-one or in other settings that are more intimate than this, that will create these principles and how they can actually be applied to your life and actually be powerful, not just food for thought, but food that will fuel you for the fight of life. And I think my real last thought is my middle name is, and because I think true masculinity, maybe this is my answer to that. True masculinity, a true man will embrace both their masculine and their feminine energy. And the feminine, and my name is Ryan Claire Smith. And growing up, when I told people Claire, that's a girl's name. And I would blush, and I'd be like, you're kind of right. I have a girl's name. Oh no. But I didn't totally disown it, but I was just sad I didn't have a good rebuttal to it. But I think my rebuttal to that now is, yeah, I embrace my feminine energy, and I have an artistic side. Those of you that know me, I love art. I love singing, dancing, and traditional things. And I think, anyway, I've talked a lot here. Bunker, any thoughts you want to jump in before we close here?
I mean, I thought that was great. It makes a lot of sense. Like ultimately, there's the yin and the yang. There's the balance of the opposites inside of ourselves and in the relationship. And I think it's important for people just to think of it that way, of we're starting with ourselves, we're getting ourselves balanced out. And then as we come together, it'll create even a greater force, a greater energy. I think sometimes we view the opposite sex as the enemy, not the ally. And it's like, no, we need the other half, because without it, we won't move forward.
We're better together than we are apart.
Absolutely, 100%.
Interdependence.
And
if I could just say this, I think we are on the brink of a new culture shift around the globe. And we have traditionally been in a patriarchal society that is vertical, up and down. And, the pyramid scheme, there's a king on top, and then the serfs and the servants down low, and that's a very hierarchical, vertical line. And it's very clear, like the military, very patriarchy society, who's on top of the pecking order. And I know that well. I have chickens, and who's on top of the pecking order don't want to be on the bottom because they don't have as many feathers. But I think we're on a brink where it's going to be more of a matriarchal society. It's going to be horizontal, and opposed to a vertical patriarchal society where there's, like, you think of sports, that's more of a masculine energy, and there's only one winner. But in matriarchal or a matriarchal society, everybody wins, everybody collaborates. And if you think of like music or like a choir, chorus or something, like you go into a concert, music, which is kind of the arts, more of a feminine energy. If you go to a concert, everybody wins. There's not just one winner and the other. There's a winner, there's a clear loser and winner. Matriarchal society, like in the arts, everybody wins. And that's what I think we're shifting towards. And it's hopefully using both of our masculine and embracing the true man embraces their femininity and then using that energy and knows when to be agreeable, when to be, I don't know, disagreeable, or say, no, this is what we're doing.
Right.
We're going to fight this. And so, those are my thoughts. And anything else?
I love it. No, I think it's great. I think we gave a great run over of a lot of different topics, and hopefully for the listeners, it gives them some things to think about, something to chew on, gives them some perspective, and hopefully they can do some introspection, right? On where am I at? How am I being? Because ultimately, I think that's both of our goals, is to help people be better at application. As saying, okay, we talked about this, but how do we apply it? How do I identify, first of all, and how do I move from one thing to the next? And that's something we hope to cover in future podcasts as well, is how to do that.
Yeah, and I think maybe just in closing, maybe why I may be more of a pushing the feminine energy, and maybe why you're maybe more focused on the masculine energy, Bunker, is your focus and who you're working with and your stage of life. And
Absolutely.
for men, it's so important, especially in like initiating a relationship and getting it going. It's so important to have that vision and to go. And so the masculine energy for men just starting out and setting the stage up right, that's a masculine energy initiates. And so you're in a stage where people are just starting their marriage. And maybe for me, where they're maybe more, can I say mature, or they're longer in the relationship. You're longer in the relationship. You're going to need to be more mastered of which to play at certain times. And men, you maybe need to be more patient, passive, as a married man, rather than just kind of in the dating scene. So that maybe is why we have maybe a different focus. And I think having these different perspectives are helpful to really highlight our own perspective. And so you married men that are listening to this, you maybe wanted to hear more of the masculine thing, and my thing is to embrace more of your femininity. And maybe you men that are on the dating scene that just want to be agreeable, you need to bring more of your masculine energy. And in closing, you had said this, and Bunker, I'm going to have you have the last word. Can you describe for our listeners the difference between buffalo and cowards?
Buffalo and cows.
Yeah, well, I'm saying cowards, but
Cows, yeah. Well, I've always thought this was interesting. I learned this kind of recently from a friend, but when a storm comes rolling over the hills and there's a herd of cows, the cows will run away from the storm. They run the direction that it's going, and it prolongs the suffering of the cows because they'll end up being stuck in the storm longer. But buffalo turn head on and they run into the storm. And so as they do that, they get through the storm quicker. And I think that's a great analogy for many applications in life. But how I think of it is, a lot of times us as men, we have things that we need to dive into ourselves. And instead of just facing it head on and getting into it, we run away from it. We kind of kick the can down the road. And if you don't mind, I even have a personal example I thought of something I do to help me be more of a buffalo. It sounds kind of weird, but every time I date a girl, I think the common thing when you break up, everybody deletes all the photos, all the messages, they erase them for their life. I keep everything. And I use it as a sense of, I'll go and look at those photos. And if it sparks that hurt or that pain or that negative emotion inside, I have work to do still. So I need to be a buffalo even more and dive into it more, lean into the pain, right? Whoa. Versus if I was being a cow, I feel like deleting all the messages and saying, oh, good riddance, that's being a cow. That's taking the easy way out.
Whoa.
Does that make sense?
Application, yeah. Because if you get triggered by that, then there's a question for you, like, okay, why am I so disgusted by that?
Yeah, why do I feel anxiety? Why am I getting nervous? Why do I hurry and close my phone up and don't want to see him anymore? What does it remind me of? What are the things that I'm feeling? What are the fears that I have associated with it in the future? There's so many things that come along with the relationships in our lives, and it's like, why not just be that buffalo? And it's hard, but it's like, let's run in face first into the hailstorm. Let's get beat up a little bit and we'll get through it, and then we'll be tougher because of it. And then the next time we'll even be better at it, and it'll just get normal. It'll become a natural process.
Well, you heard it. Be a buffalo, not a coward.
Not a coward. There you go.
All right. Till next time. Thank you for staying tuned. And face your problems head on with the right energy that will, and
Perfect. All right. Thank you, Ryan. It was great being with you.
all right, till next time.
We'll see you.